How did I know it was time to get a divorce? Okay, let's get into it. I had been thinking about divorce for years before I finally made the move. And the move happened for me in one night. And here's how I knew I was ready. I had three oldest kids that were, at the time, young adults, 20-somethings and a teenager, and then a little guy who was like 4, I think, at the time. And the older two didn't live with us anymore, but this one night they were all over for dinner. And so we had dinner. I fed my kid, the littlest one, and he threw up all over everything. I mean, like head to toe throw up. He's in a wheelchair covered head to toe, floor, like everything. Like it was everywhere. And it occurred to me that I would have to give him a bath, and it was already super late at night, and I had forgotten that the bathtub was clogged. And I had asked my husband if he could unclog the bathtub. And he said that he would, but it was only clogged like a day or two. And it was one of his jobs. His job was to fix the things inside the house and to do some of the yard work outside of the house. And then all of the rest of it was me. But that's a story for another time. So when I remembered that the bathtub was a little bit clogged, I turned and I said to him, I need to give the kid a bath, but the bathtub is clogged. Could you like go up and do something to get it unclogged so that I can fill up the tub and give him a bath? And he said to me, oh, you don't want to give him a bath tonight. It's too cold. He'll get a chill. And I said to him, I don't have the energy for your bullshit tonight. And he looked at me, and all of my kids were looking at me, and he said, straight as he could be, fuck you. And I knew in that moment that all of my kids were watching me. And I basically had two choices at that point. I could either have a reaction to what he said to me, in which case I would look like the crazy person, or I could have no reaction, which would teach my kids that I was okay being treated like that. And in that moment, I realized that they were raised like this, that they had been raised and had been watching for their whole entire lives of their dad treating me like this. So I said, fine, whatever. I went, I gave the kid a bath, even with a little bit clogged up. I just went ahead and filled the bathtub. I gave him a bath. And then this is the really important part. I sat down in a rocking chair with him and I rocked him to sleep. And I was in that chair about 2 or 3 hours. And I could physically feel the internal shift happening within me. And that shift was very specifically, I rolled through all the things in my head that I had been saying to myself that I couldn't do this because. And that night, all of those things shifted from I can't do this because to how can I do this? So I had been putting it off because I didn't want to have to move out of my house. And that night I was like, I do not care. I will live in an apartment. I will live in a studio. I would live in my best friend's basement. I'm just done. Like I was just done. So the moving wasn't an issue. And then I was working at home as my son's PCA. And I thought to myself, prior to this, I was like, well, I can't leave because then I would have to get a job to support us. And that night it was like, I don't even care. I will get a job so that I can support us. And I did. I had a job within like 2 weeks. Not a problem. Like everything shifted for me. And all of those things, you know, I can't leave because I don't want the kids to have to go through us divorcing. And that shifted internally to, I cannot stay in this marriage and make my kids have to watch this anymore. That internal shift, it was everything. I could physically feel it in my body. And it took about 2 or 3 hours. And at the end of that night, I knew I was done. I was just done. So I spent the next week. I spent a whole entire week before letting him know. And during that week, I applied for new jobs. I started looking for apartments for me to live in. I looked through all our finances. I kind of did a real quick, like, back of the napkin sort of like, can I afford this? Or what do I need to do so that I can afford this? And I got it done. And a week later, he was gone. That's how I knew. So if you're thinking about this, this is the important thing. You're not going to be ready until you are ready. And no amount of other people telling you, or you kind of telling yourself like, yeah, I know that I should, but I don't, but, when that moment hits you and you just like, you know, to the core of your being, you just know this is it. You're done and you're ready. That moment is incredibly liberating. So give yourself a little bit of grace if you're still in that place of, I don't know, should I or shouldn't I, should I or shouldn't I, or how can I don't know if I can. Because when you're ready, you'll be ready. So anyway, thanks for sticking around for my story. I hope it helps. And 4 years out from that day, I am really, really happy. I love my life. I'm not lonely. I was more lonely in the marriage than I am now. And my kids are fine. Okay. Good luck.